Hello and welcome to Financial Services Expo. My name's Andrew Montlake and I'm delighted and honoured to have with me Robert Peston, who is the political editor of ITV News. Welcome,
Pleasure
Robert.
to be here.
So how do you think the UK has responded since the Brexit vote? Obviously there's been a lot of economic upheaval. Do you think we're doing well? Are we doing better than you expected?
Well, there was plainly a lot of momentum in the economy before the vote, and plainly in the weeks afterwards, we have been performing better than many of the doomsayers predicted. But let's be clear, it is early days. The UK, particularly multinational, international companies based here, are very dependent on access to the European single market, and I think it is too early to make a judgment about the economic impact over the next 2 or 3 years. My own view is that we will be growing at a slower rate than we would otherwise have been doing. The big uncertainty is whether we will be able to reconstruct ourselves in the period of transition so that we can then accelerate again.
Do you think Governor Carney is on the right lines in terms of cutting interest rates? Do you foresee a time when potentially there could be negative interest rates?
Oh, I mean, look, in real terms, we have seen some negative interest rates here and in many of the developed economies now for some considerable time. Do I think that the Bank of England will cut the bank rate to a minus number? No, I don't think that. But it doesn't mean that they're out of ammunition, because of course there are all sorts of things they can do to encourage banks to lend. They can increase the size of their asset purchases, but purchases of gilts and bonds. So they're not out of ammunition. But no, I don't think we will see negative interest rates, partly because in an economy which is still to an extent dependent on cash, it's very hard actually to move to negative interest rates, because all that you'll be encouraging people to do is move out of the banking system and into cash, and that could be quite dangerous.
And the banks themselves, obviously, they've been through all the turmoil. They've trying to repair their balance sheets as much as possible. Do you feel they're in a much more stable environment now?
Oh, unquestionably so. I mean, you've only got to see how they continued to lend, obviously with a lot of Bank of England help, lots of additional liquidity, but you only have to look at how they continued to lend after the shock of the Brexit vote to see that they are in much better nick than they were. But as somebody who's been following banks for 30 years, I would always say, don't get complacent. We did get complacent in the run-up to the crash. Banks took crazy risks. Regulators, politicians turned a blind eye. Really, the most important thing that any of us can do is keep a close watch on the banks to make sure they don't make those same mistakes again.
Yeah, absolutely. And just finally then, do you get a sense that people, politicians, the economy is becoming a lot more positive now? So there seems to be a lot more a trickle of better news coming through. There's been some good surveys and data.
I would put it slightly differently. Actually, quite a lot of the survey data is showing that we're in a slowdown. We haven't seen it in the official figures, but we are seeing it in the survey data. Probably not a disastrous slowdown, but the economy is heading for probably growth next year of around 1, maybe a bit less, which is a halving, more than a halving of where we were before. But I would say that most sensible people have recognised that phrase that's become so associated with Theresa May, Brexit means Brexit, is incontrovertibly where we are, and therefore I would say most sensible people recognise we're heading out of the European Union. What we've got to do, all of us, is make the best of it.
Very good. Thank you very much for your time, Robert. Really appreciate that.
Pleasure.
And thank you for watching.